Preserve and optimize. One of the key tenets of the Plan 2040 Regional Transportation Plan is on preserving what we already have and protecting our investments through optimizing them. This is shown and was shown by the 71% of funding in the plan going to preserve and optimize the existing transportation system by addressing the actual wear and tear and the efficient operations of our streets, again, our bridges, and our transit services. I would like to say that additionally, there will be funds going to operating the transit services we have today so that we can continue to see additional cutbacks in services. So basically what we're going to do is, as the Atlanta region, we're going to take $23 billion of our current assets and move that towards the existing transit you see on the road, and that's just not MARTA, that's also Cobb Community Transit, Gwinnett Community Transit, and other area transit such as Douglas County Ride Share and Henry County Transit. Again, because we're talking about an 18-county region. So we've made a decision in the region that we've got to maintain the transit that we have here. The constraint plan also includes specific projects and programs that will maximize the efficiency of existing roads by addressing problems like congestion, unsafe intersections, upgrading signals, and managing access along our major corridors. Next, let's talk about major roadways. The residents of the region, we know that they utilize our major roadways and arterials on a daily basis, whether it's by car, whether it's by bus, truck, or bike, or even if you're on foot if you choose to walk. The Regional Strategic Transportation System and Thoroughfares Network, that's what you see a picture here of, are systems of major roadways across the region that connect our communities to our activity centers. It moves high volumes of traffic and are key to goods movement, and it's key to moving freight. And it is also critical that these roadways function efficiently, and that sometimes require adding capacity to them, building brand new roads, because we understand as a region that you can't build your way out of congestion, but at the same time there are areas in the region where it is appropriate to add additional capacity by adding new roadways or lanes. Our constraint plan includes about 516 miles, more than 5.8 million in investments, and those are the areas shown in red up there, to widen or build new roadways in our region. The entire vision for adding roadway capacity to our system is about 1,370 miles, and that would cost us a total of $14 billion. And those are all the areas that you see up there in blue. Included in this particular strategy to add roadway capacity, we want to do it in a way that meets the needs of all users and all modes. So we understand going forward that as we add new infrastructure that we need to have a complete streets in mind type policies and design. When we plan to widen a road, we must include things like amenities to support transit services along those corridors and provide the adequate pedestrian and bicycle facilities, the safe crossings again and intersections. And we also have to take into consideration the need of all users, whether they're young or old, whether they're a driver or non-driver. The policy is key to providing safe access to community resources for the region's residents and to help to create a healthy community. Interchanges. Investing in a managed lane system. This is consistent with the state's plan. Along our limited access interstates and freeways, this is another key strategy in Plan 2040. Managed lanes provide reliable trips for those who use them, whether they are riding on a bus, operating a managed lane, carpool, vanpool, or driving alone. Managed lanes, the concept and the system, will provide another choice for travelers and will help to maximize the efficiency of the existing interstates and freeways. And just so you guys know, to kind of give you some familiarity with what managed lanes are, they're very similar to our high occupancy vehicle lanes that we currently have. But the difference is that there is a fee or a toll to use that during peak time periods. And to translate what peak time period is, it's during rush hour. So say you're on the highway and it's 7:30 and you got to get somewhere, and traffic is backed up as it normally is. You can get in the managed lane for a fee and drive quicker because there should be less traffic in there. So there will be a fee attached with using that particular lane. The amount of that fee will depend on the amount of congestion at the time. The more congestion there is on the highway, then the higher the fee would be. And the impact of these systems will be to provide more reliable trips again along the interstate and to many major employment centers. The I-85 HOT, which is high occupancy toll lane, will open in August, and this is a demonstration project that we have. This map also illustrates the Plan 2040 recommendations for the managed lane system, and as you can see, the areas up there where there are red dots, those are the part of the system that is actually in the constrained plan. So those are what we actually have money to pay for over the next 30 years. The items, the blue dot represents the other parts of the system that that's what we would implement over the next 30 years if we had enough money. This concept, I would like to say, also creates some synergy for future express bus services and bus rapid transit as well. So adding that bus rapid transit would be another mode and alternative transportation wise. Want to look at this as well. We want to talk about transit now, which many people in the room here today use. But because of congestion, this will continue to be an issue. Plan 2040 will continue to look for ways to provide more options to provide reliable trips. Transit is considered to be a reliable trip. This plan does embrace a new transit vision, which is known as Concept 3. Some of you may have heard of it, and some of you may have not. But Concept 3 is a regional transit vision. It has been developed over the last 5 years, and it has been a regional effort. And this concept, this plan will be the backbone that will describe how we will build out, operate, and maintain transit in the future. Plan 2040 makes some assumptions because, as you can see up here in the red again, those areas in red is the planned transit that we can pay for over the next 40 years, but over the next 30 years. But what you see in blue again is what we hope to be able to do long term as new funding sources and new funding opportunities become available. So we're making some assumptions as to how we can do this over the next 30 years. The Plan 2040 does assume that the 50-50 restriction that is currently on MARTA on how they can use their sales tax to operate and maintain the system, that is lifted, and we're making the assumption that it will be lifted indefinitely. Currently, that has been lifted for 3 years up under the House Bill 277, or known to some of you all as the Transportation Investment Act of 2010. Also, $23 billion will be used to preserve and operate the core system. That's what we have existing now. This does not include, I want to stress, it doesn't exclude any expansion. Over the past 2 years, regional transit operators have worked to implement cost efficiencies, including major service reductions. They reduce operating costs, and they are moving towards a more sustainable and financial structure. The Regional Transportation Plan does also include $27 billion in new transit expansion. I want you all to know that the total cost, that's everything you see up there in red and blue for transit, that would cost $41 billion. And that would include commuter rail, light rail, bus rapid transit. But I think what is important here to show is that 40% of transit riders do not own or even have access to a car, and that 3 out of 4 transit riders use it to get to work. Bicycle and pedestrians. Every trip, whether it's by car or transit, begins and ends with a pedestrian trip. Additionally, places that allow people to walk and bike where they need to go tend to be more vibrant, and we are aware of that. They tend to be more healthy, and they are more accessible. Many residents in the region choose not to drive or do not own a vehicle, and this requires having safe facilities that allows them to be able to walk and bike to their destinations. This plan is in complete support of investments in bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure in many ways. The region does have a regional bicycle and transportation pedestrian walkway plan. It's identified a network of corridors and centers. That's what you see on the map. That are a priority for funding improvements that will increase the mobility and the accessibility and safety of bicyclists and pedestrians in our region. A new funding program has been identified in Plan 2040. There will be a minimum, and I'm saying a minimum, of $12.5 million per year that will be solely dedicated to building bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure that supports the regional vision of walkable and bikeable centers connected to key regional corridors. Projects that will be funded out of this program will be identified early in 2012, so we're not that far away.